Hey y'all, are you wanting to try to smoke a brisket but afraid to try because it may come out dry? With my tips and tricks, you will soon become a grill master when it comes to smoking briskets. Our number one thing, the most important to me, is to get a good quality cut of meat. By that I mean, I want to use prime beef. This particular one that I have here, my wife got for me, and it is choice, one grade below. The difference in price in prime, I can buy them at Sam's. Choice is gonna be $3.49 a pound, where prime beef is only $3.99. That's not that much a difference when you talk about 17, 18 pounds. If you don't have it, and what we're gonna do, because we have choice, is we're gonna do I got some little tricks that will help in this. But our first thing is we wanna trim all of the excess fat off it. All right, so starting at the bottom, I'm gonna turn it over and I'm gonna start on the back side. I've got a nice clean towel here. My wife buys me special towels that I can use out here so I don't ruin hers. You can wear gloves. My hands are very, very clean. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim a lot of this excess stuff, especially where I see this silk screen in this area and some of this hard fat. And all I'm gonna do is just trim it. I'm putting in this bowl right here because I am gonna make beef tallow out of this. We'll go over that in just a few minutes. But I wanna get a good portion of this, especially this hard fat. This little bitty trim here. Okay, now I'm gonna turn it over and do the other side. So I'm just gonna pick it up and flip it over. This is called the fat cap. That's where the majority of all the fat is. So I wanna trim this down. I wanna trim it down, but I wanna leave some of this fat. I only want 1/4 of an inch though. So I don't want it real thick, especially like right in here. This is really hard fat. I wanna trim a bunch of that off. All right, so I got most of my fat cut off and trimmed off, and I've got it, you can see there's several places that I have some meat exposed, and that's okay. On here with Southern Backyard Cooking. If you're enjoying my video and are getting something out of it, please smash that like button. All right, everything's trimmed off, but I'm not gonna use this for about another 5 hours. I wanna render down all this extra fat so I can get beef tallow. Rendering down means I'm gonna cook it really slow. So between now and then, I am going to wrap it, and I'm just gonna wrap it in some plastic wrap. All right, so I have it all wrapped. This is gonna go back in the refrigerator. I'm gonna pull it out about a half an hour to 45 minutes before I'm ready to start smoking it, so it'll start coming up to room temp, but I don't wanna leave it out for 5 or 6 hours. I'm gonna take all my fat trimmings and I'm gonna move those inside and I'm gonna put them in a crock pot to slowly cook those and render down all that fat, the juices. That becomes our beef tallow. Okay, I'm back inside and I've just dumped all the extra stuff, all the fat, trimmings, meat, everything right into the crock pot. I am gonna select it and put it on low. I'm gonna put a timer on it for about 4 hours. I'm just gonna let it go. Put the lid on it, and about every 30 to 45 minutes, I'll come in and mix it up a little bit. All right, it's been 4 or 5 hours now. It's getting close to time I want to put it on. I want to put the into the smoker around 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I'm gonna start preparing. One of the things I'm gonna do is I gotta get the smoker going. Today I'm gonna be using these Bear Mountain. These are the bourbon barbecue pellets by Bear Mountain. These are really good, especially for a brisket. It gives it a really good flavor, so I'm gonna use those. So the biggest thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to fill the hopper up, turn it on preheat, and get it going. The temperature I'm gonna be cooking today is at 225 degrees. My smoker runs 25 degrees hot, so I'm going to actually set the temperature at 200 degrees. The smoker is preheating. While it's doing that, I'm going to prepare everything on it. So I'm going to add my seasoning. I'm going to inject it. The first thing I do to get everything to adhere to it is I apply French's mustard. And I'm just going to apply it liberally. I'm going to do this side, and then I'm going to do the other side. So I'm just going to smear this everywhere. Nice and clean, huh? I'm going to take one of my gloves off. That way I can, without messing it up, I've got my rub here in a bowl, and I'm just going to basically sprinkle it over. I want it pretty heavy over everything. And this rub I made, it's my own blend. It's just a few ingredients. A lot of people like whatever they want. Some people just use salt, pepper, and garlic. I'm going to kind of rub it into it a little bit, pat it into it to make sure it adheres. Doing the sides. And now I'm going to turn it over and do this side. This time I'm just going to take and dump it a little bit. Make sure I get everything covered in it. This rub really gives it a good flavor. All right, so right now I have the flat side up. The fat side is down. I'm gonna cook it the fat side down. All right, so it's at this point in time, it's ready to go in. Just gotta make sure I'm about ready. Right now it's at 126, so it's close. I'm gonna open it up. And what I wanna do is I wanna put it on my upper rack up here. So I'm gonna pick it up, and again, I want fat side down. I want the fatter side, the thicker side, toward the center. So I'm putting it in just like this. Voila. So I have it in there. Now the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna insert my wireless meat probe, and I'm gonna insert it right into the thickest part so I can get a good temperature, and I'm closing it up. This is the wireless receiver. I'll have it inside with me, and it says right now the internal temperature is 40 degrees. I want it to go off at 203, 204, around in that area. We'll check it again about 7 in the morning. All right, y'all, it's in the morning time now. The brisket has been smoking for about 13 and a half hours. My temperature is 203. It's right in the area that I want it. So my next step is I'm gonna take my probe here and turn it on. This is just a thermal probe. What I wanna do is I wanna check to make sure it's probe tender. So I'm gonna stick it in and see how tender it is. I've got a really good bark on it. All right, so looking at it and checking it, the fat side is right at temperature. The flat side, the flat area, is still a little tough and everything. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move it over some. All right, it's been about another hour. So I'm about 14 and a half hours. Turn my probe on. I'm gonna temp probe them again, but I'm looking for how easy it goes in and what the temperature is. It's going in pretty good, not much resistance. So I think it's ready to come off. All right, so I have my Eco Grips. These are heat resistant gloves. Whatever heat resistant gloves you want to use, that's fine. I like these. They got a lot of really good grips on them. And that way I don't possibly drop my meat, which I have done. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the probe out. I'm just gonna pick the meat up. Set it right there. Okay, before I wrap it, I've still got some of my beef tallow here. I'm just gonna pour some of this on, and it's kind of congealed a little bit, but that's okay. I'm gonna pour it a little bit on top of it. I'm gonna get some onto my paper. I'm gonna kind of wipe it around on my paper. And the reason I do that is it makes it a little bit more pliable, not quite so stiff. But this beef tallow is going to actually keep a lot of the juices in. So I've got it all tightly packed, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it in my ice chest. And like I said, I want to do this because it's going to be a long time prior to me being ready to serve it. All right, y'all, back out here. It's early afternoon. We're getting ready to about serve this thing up, so let's open her up and see what we got. Gonna pull her out of all this stuff. Put this over to the side for right now. Got a great bark. We can see the grain is going this way. Over here it starts turning this way. What I'm gonna do, this is the fat part, this is the flat. I'm gonna kind of cut it right about there, just so you can see how juicy that is. So I want you to notice so I've got this now. I'm going to take and I'm just going to go right here on the end and cup. It's kind of thick, but it stretches pretty good, breaks up. Man, that bark is good. This is where I can tell a big difference in the quality of the meat. The flat over here is not nearly as juicy as it is up here. And of course, this area here typically does tend to be juicier. A prime brisket would have been perfect. But this will make great sandwiches. This end down here, I'll end up making some chopped beef out of it. Down here we'll use for slices. But this will be a great, great afternoon meal. I don't know that it'll leave right here for right now. Best tip I can give you, buy good quality meat every time you get a chance. It's not that much more to buy prime than it is choice. I know when I buy fillets, yeah, it's $4 or $5 more a pound for fillets, but man, they are so much better. And if you can't, here I probably could have injected more of my beef tallow in this area, and maybe I should have done that. It would have given it a little bit, wouldn't have been quite so dry. But regardless, most of it is really good. Till next time, guys.